Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Supervisors meeting for Tuesday, February 6th, 2018. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam President. President Breed.
Here.
Breed present. Supervisor Cohen. Cohen present. Supervisor Fewer. Fewer present. Supervisor Kim. Here. Kim present. Supervisor Peskin. Peskin present. Supervisor Ronan. Ronan present. Supervisor Safai. Safai present. Supervisor Sheehy. Sheehy present. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie present. Supervisor Tang. Tang present. Supervisor Yee.
Present.
Yee present. Madam President, all members are present.
Ladies and gentlemen, can you please join us for a Pledge of Allegiance?
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, are there any communications?
There are none to report, Madam President.
Okay, please call the next item.
Let's see here. Item number 1 is an ordinance to appropriate $1.1 million, consisting of a combination of fund balance in the Airport Forfeiture and Asset Seizure Fund and from other SFO program budgets, and to reappropriate that amount to the Building Structures and Improvements Project budget in support of the Airport Commission's Police Training Support Facility capital projects at the San Francisco International Airport.
Roll call vote.
On item 1, Supervisor Ronan. Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai. Safai, aye. Supervisor Sheehy.
Aye.
Sheehy, aye. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Breed.
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Cohen.
Aye.
Cohen, aye. Supervisor Fewer. Fewer, aye. Supervisor Kim. Kim, aye. Supervisor Peskin. Peskin, aye. There are 11 ayes.
The ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading. Next item, please.
Item 2 is a resolution to approve and authorize an agreement for conveyance and acceptance of interests in real property from the State of California Department of General Services, consisting of easements for subsurface tiebacks, access, and maintenance over real property located at 100 Armory Drive for 2000 as part of the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission Water System Improvement Program funded project for the West Side Recycled Water Project.
Colleagues, can we take this item? Same House, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 3 is a resolution to retroactively authorize the Police Department to accept and expend a grant in the amount of $165,000 from the Department of Homeland Security Federal Emergency Management Agency for the Safe Boat Refurbishment and Services Life Extension Program for the period through August 31st, 2020.
Same House, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 4 is a resolution to retroactively approve modification number 1 to a lease with the Transportation Security Administration for offices occupied in the International Terminal and Terminal 2 at the San Francisco International Airport, 3-year lease extension through October 31st, 2020 for a total amount of annual rent not to exceed approximately $6 million.
Same House, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, please call items 5 and 6 together.
Items 5 and 6 are 2 resolutions that provide retroactive authorization to the Department of Public Health to accept and expend grants for item 5 in an amount of approximately $173,000 from the Public Health Foundation Enterprises for a program entitled DOT Diary for the period through August 31st, 2018, and for item 6, a grant in the amount of approximately $309,000 from the California Department of Public Health for an oral health program supporting Proposition 56 local oral health programs for the period through June 30th, 2018.
Same House, same call. Without objection, the resolutions are adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 7 is a resolution to authorize and approve an amendment with a lease with BGCA Management, LLC for Bill Graham Civic Auditorium at 99 Grove Street.
Same House, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 8 is a resolution to authorize the Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing to accept and expend a $10 million grant from the California Department of Housing and Community Development for the expansion of navigation centers for people experiencing homelessness.
Same House, same call. Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 9 is an ordinance to amend the Planning Code to amend the inclusionary housing ordinance to remove the requirement that on-site and off-site inclusionary units within a new development be ownership units rather than rental units, or alternatively, that the project sponsor submit a contract demonstrating the proposed on-site or off-site units are exempt from the Costa-Hawkins Rental Housing Act and making the conforming amendments.
Supervisor Kim.
I would just like my name to be added as a co-sponsor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading. Next item.
Item 10 is an ordinance to create underground districts number 361 on 2nd Street from Bryant to Townsend Streets and to affirm the Planning Department CEQA determination.
Roll call vote.
On item 10, Supervisor Ronan. Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai. Safai, aye. Supervisor Sheehy.
Aye.
Sheehy, aye. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Breed.
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Cohen.
Aye.
Cohen, aye. Supervisor Fewer. Fewer, aye. Supervisor Kim. Kim, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. There are 11 ayes.
The ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading. Next item.
Item 11 is an ordinance to amend the housing code to require that single-stall bathroom facilities in hotels be made available for the use of all residents, regardless of gender or gender identity, and to require that signage be posted to indicate the same.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, my office made the request to add me as a co-sponsor to this legislation, please.
Yes, Madam President, we received that notice this morning.
Thank you. Supervisor Ronan.
Thank you, colleagues. This legislation before you expands San Francisco's all-gender restroom law to include hotels, and most notably single-room occupancy hotels known as SROs. I want to first thank our co-sponsors, Supervisors Kim, Sheehy, Peskin, Fewer, as well as Mayor Farrell and now President Breed. This, as well as Safai. Okay. Oh, sorry. And Supervisor Safai, I didn't have this here, so thank you for your co-sponsorship. This change comes out of the all-gender restroom law that former Supervisor David Campos championed in 2016, requiring that all public single-room restaurants in San Francisco become all-gender restaurants. Since that law has come to pass, we have seen gender-neutral restrooms becoming the norm in restaurants and bars and other public spaces across the city. However, in the past year, transgender tenants of SROs reached out to us to ask that the law be expanded to include SROs as well. They told us that this change would help community members feel safer and more comfortable in their homes. 30,000 people, about 5% of San Franciscans, live in SROs, a critical source of low-cost housing. Many SRO units do not have their own private bathrooms, and people share toilets and bathing facilities with other residents. Some SROs already have all-gender restrooms, but it is currently not a requirement. This issue is important for the transgender community as well as human rights and safety issue, but the issue also greatly impacts disabled people and seniors who have opposite gender care attendants, as well as parents with opposite gender children. I ask for your support in passing this law and creating safer spaces for SRO residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you very much, Madam President. To the clerk, I just want to bring to your attention that I asked to be added to this file as well. And I just wanted to take a moment to speak to what this legislation is. It's almost like a no-brainer. This is really exciting to continue to move forward. I think we have had success already, not just in San Francisco, but across the state for gender-neutral bathrooms. The world has kept turning. Nothing has happened. And so it is only logical that we continue to expand that opportunity as opposed to restricting it. So I'm happy to be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Supervisor Cohen. And colleagues, seeing no other names on the roster, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the ordinance passes unanimously on the first reading. All right. Let's go to committee reports.
Item 12 was considered by the Budget and Finance Committee at a regular meeting on Thursday, February 1st, and was forwarded as a committee report. It's a resolution to authorize the Director of the Real Estate Department to negotiate with the California Department of Transportation for the purpose of executing purchase and sale or lease agreements to provide homeless services on Caltrans property.
Okay, colleagues, can we take this item, same house, same call? Without objection, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Next item.
Item 13 was considered by the Rules Committee at a special meeting on Thursday, February 1st, and was also forwarded as a committee report. Item 13 is a charter amendment, third draft, to amend the charter of the City and County of San Francisco to authorize the Public Utilities Commission to issue revenue bonds for power facilities when approved by ordinance, receiving a two-thirds vote of the Board of Supervisors, and to clarify the scope of the Commission's bond authority with regard to the city's water and clean water utilities for the June 5th, 2018 election. And Madam President, pursuant to the charter requirements, this item needs to sit for 1 week.
Okay, colleagues, is there a motion to continue this item to the meeting of February 13th, 2017, moved by Supervisor Peskin, seconded by
2018, Madam President.
2018,
Apologies.
thank you. February 13th, 2018, moved by Supervisor Peskin, seconded by Supervisor Safai. Colleagues, can we take that without objection? Without objection, this item will be continued. All right, Madam Clerk, let's go to roll call for introductions.
First up to introduce new business is Supervisor Ronan.
Submit.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Safai.
Submit.
Thank you. Supervisor Sheehy.
Submit.
All right. Supervisor Stephanie.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, just wanted to call attention to the car break-in epidemic in the city. We know that car break-ins and property crimes have become an epidemic in San Francisco. As I said last week, when I moved to Cow Hollow 17 years ago, broken glass on the street was a rarity, and now it is a daily occurrence. You go to any neighborhood meeting or gathering of San Francisco, and most, if not all, of the people gathered will say they've been victimized. We see about 85 car break-ins a day in San Francisco. Last year, we saw a 28% increase in car break-ins, and these are just the reported number. We all know that so many of these go unreported. And these car burglaries are being run by sophisticated criminals. Just the other day, I was in the Pierce Street garage between Lombard and Chestnut, and I saw someone, as I was sitting in my car, come up to the back of an SUV, peer in, and as I pulled out my phone to call the police, he went back into the garage, and then he came out with his friend in a silver Mercedes, and they were laughing at me as I was on the phone. And just the other day, I was out to dinner with my son. We were in that same garage. We saw someone going upstairs complaining and in distress that they had just had their car broken into. It's absolutely out of control. Of course, just a few days ago, so many of us saw that video where one of our police officers tried to stop an auto burglary in process and was run over by one of the suspects. It's absolutely unacceptable. As a former prosecutor, I understand the complex challenges around prosecuting these cases, and I know that all of you, my colleagues, have worked with Chief Scott to create a neighborhood property crime unit in each police station. I want to learn more about this structure. I want to understand how this unit is targeting the problem. I would like to see regular updates from this unit. I want to know how we as a board can provide the resources necessary to these units to actually effectuate change. So today, I'm calling for a hearing on the progress of SFPD's neighborhood property crime units. I would like to have the first hearing in a month or so and continue to have them regularly. I look forward to understanding the challenges of our police department, what they're facing, and how we can find creative ways to support the SFPD in significantly reducing property crimes. Car break-ins should not be a toll you pay to live in San Francisco. It's not a part of city living. I refuse to let this be the status quo in our beautiful city. We can do better, and I know we will. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Stephanie. Supervisor Tang.
Thank you very much, colleagues. Today, I did want to adjourn our meeting in the memory of Orion Pitts, who was a beloved musician who found his way to San Francisco from his place of birth in Pennsylvania. He passed away suddenly on Saturday, January 27th. So Orion was someone who had received his Bachelor of Arts in Music Education and served in the Navy for 3 years. And after his honorable discharge from the Navy at Pearl Harbor, he continued his education and completed a Master of Fine Arts degree in Theater Arts. And upon moving to San Francisco later on in life, he worked for Bank of America for over a decade, but actually found his true passion in becoming the office administrator and the director of music for First United Lutheran Church in San Francisco. And it was there where he found an outlet for his musical talent in playing piano, pipe organ, and electronic keyboards. In his capacity, he planned the weekly worship service, chose the music, and prepared the weekly 8-page bulletin, as well as a 16-page weekly newsletter. And in the Sunset District, you could hear him playing the organ at Grace Lutheran Church. He considered himself a spiritual traveler and endeared himself to many, many people of all faith backgrounds and cultures. And so during this time, we want to wish all of our condolences to his brother, his sister-in-law, his niece, nephew, and many of his dear friends. So with that, I'd like for us to adjourn in honor of Orion Pitts.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor. President Breed. Oh, excuse me, I apologize. Supervisor Yee.
Submit.
Okay. Thank you. President Breed. Thank you. Supervisor Cohen.
Thank you. Yes. So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I've asked the city attorney to begin drafting legislation to require the Board of Supervisors and their legislative aides to attend a complete implicit bias training. Now, many of you may remember long-standing conversations that we had with the mayor. This is Mayor Ed Lee. We asked Mayor Lee to develop the implicit bias training, encourage all senior staff across City Hall to participate. And, well, frankly, our justice reform initiatives with the San Francisco Police Department, which began in 2016 with Attorney General Loretta Lynch and are now continuing forward with the California State Department of Justice. So these reforms require all members of San Francisco's police department to undergo unconscious bias training so that we can and they can, as an individual, begin to better understand how their own experiences or conditioning might affect how they are approaching a safety situation. So this is a tremendous step forward in trying to establish trust between law enforcement and our communities of color. Well, we in a progressive San Francisco tend to be to the left of the rest of the nation's politics. And I think that, I believe that we as Democratic leaders are more enlightened than your average American voters. Perhaps I'm grandstanding and patting ourselves on the back, but that's truly what I do believe. But we are not above scrutiny. We should force ourselves to understand our own baggage and our own impulses. I believe that we should lead by example and not be afraid to hold a mirror to our own biases. So, colleagues, I hope that you will support this very simple and straightforward piece of legislation, and I look forward to seeing you all at our human resources bias training in the very near future. Thank you. The rest I submit.
Thank you, Supervisor Cohen. Supervisor Fewer. Okay, thank you. Supervisor Kim. Thank you. Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Today I am introducing a hearing request on the status of operations of our city's emergency call boxes. These antiquated boxes still operate in many parts of the city, and it's come to my attention that dozens have been discovered to be non-operational, which has been indicated by them being covered with towels and masking tape. Some of them are in District 7. There's one in my district at California and Larkin. And for residents living in neighborhoods without strong cell reception, as well as residents or merchants who don't have access to wireless services in general, this lack of functioning call boxes is concerning, particularly insofar as we have no communication or information from departments about the utility of these boxes and the fact that many of them are not functioning. So to that end, I would like to hold a hearing at the Public Safety and Neighborhood Services Committee and have the departments present on the status of these emergency devices. I would also like to adjourn today's board meeting in the memory of Edward Prudente Sr., who passed away on January 31st, surrounded by family. He was a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, loved to sing, and found his voice at a young age. This guy was totally the epitome of cool. He traveled to San Francisco from Philadelphia back in the day to pursue his dreams on the nightclub circuit. And in North Beach, Eddie found his soulmate, Torchy. Their life together orbited around North Beach and the marina. And I would like to offer our condolences to his beloved daughters, Josette and Rhonda, his grandchildren, his sister, and a magnitude of nieces and nephews, and the rest I will submit.
Thank you, Supervisor. President Breed.
Thank you. Colleagues, today I have one item to introduce. It's criminal justice fee reform legislation. Today, the legislation that I'm introducing will eliminate our city's criminal justice fees. These criminal justice fees include adult probation fees of approximately $1,800 up front, electric monitoring fees, $125 to sign up, plus $25 per day. Sheriff's Work Alternative Program fees, $100 to sign up, plus $20 per day for a fee. Booking fees, pre-sentencing fees. These are just a few of examples of some of the fees that occur that lead to barriers to reentry, disproportionately impacting communities of color and contributing to the never-ending cycle of poverty in our city. Many people don't know the tolls that these fees have on a community. I know all too well the devastation it can cause families. I've helped family members and friends pay for these fees. And in fact, when I was the executive director of the African American Art and Culture Complex, when we hired some individuals from the community, oftentimes after working for a few months, we received notices for the garnishment of wages, which basically can be quite discouraging when there's a deduction of over 50% of someone's check that they never anticipated. We're talking about people who have already served their time in the criminal justice system, people who have paid their debt to society, yet outside of those iron bars, they're still shackled with the financial debt and that they're unable to pay. And it follows them for years. Thanks to the work of the Fines and Fees Task Force, investigative research done by the Public Defender's Office, collaboration with the courts, adult probation, Sheriff's Department, and the Mayor's Budget Office, we were able to identify every single criminal justice fee that is levied on our residents and found that these fees are actually incredibly costly to administer, and they are an insufficient revenue source for our city. And because so many people are unable to pay these fees, the city only collects anywhere between 9 and 18% of the fees administered. These fees are counterproductive and a problematic source of revenue that are borne on the backs of our most vulnerable populations in San Francisco. I'm looking forward to eliminating these fees entirely and making San Francisco the first in the country to do so. This was a collaborative effort, and I want to thank everyone who came together to make this happen, including our public defender who has been a leader in criminal justice reform, Jeff Adachi, the mayor's budget office, our treasurer, Jose Cisneros, and his Fines and Fees Task Force, Sheriff Vicki Hennessy, Karen Fletcher with adult probation, the district attorney's office, thank you to our DA, George Gascon, and community advocates who have been fighting for this type of criminal justice reform for years, including debt-free SF. I'm looking forward to moving this legislation forward as soon as possible, and it will definitely make a difference in the lives of so many. Thank you, and the rest I submit.
Thank you, Madam President. Seeing no other names on the roster, Madam President.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call public comment.
At this time, the public may address the entire Board of Supervisors for up to 2 minutes on items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Board, to include the items on the adoption without reference to committee calendar, items 16 and 17, Public comment is not allowed when an item has been previously subject to public comment at a board committee. And pursuant to the board's rules, please direct your remarks to the board as a whole, not to individual supervisors, and not to the audience. Speakers using interpretation assistance will be allowed twice the amount of time. If you would like to display your document on the overhead projector, please clearly state such to SFG TV and then remove the document when you would like the screen to return to live coverage of the meeting.
Thank you. First speaker.
أيها الإخوة، أود أن أتحدث. أنا أتمنى أن أتكلم عربي في الأول وتاني مرة أتكلم إنجليزي. أولاً, the first thing I have, a living letter I want to give our supervisor. They are very important to read it more than one if you want to run for mayor.
Abdullah, please proceed.
أيها الإخوة الأمريكان من أصل عربي، أهلا وسهلا بكم في مدينة سان فرانسيسكو. زي ما أنتم عارفين اسمي عبد الله مجاهد، وأنا هنا في أمريكا بقالي 35 سنة. 33 سنة من عمري قضيتهم متبرعا في خدمة الأمريكان الفقراء اللي بيناموا في الشارع. الحمد لله وجدت شغل ليهم وسكن ليهم كمان، لكن مش كفاية على اللي حصل، لأن في منهم كتير آلافات موجودين في الشارع ونايمين على أبواب بيوتنا. إحنا النهاردة بنتمنى من كل عربي بيسمع صوتي وبيشوفني في التلفزيون دلوقتي إنه يحاول يقف جنب المير الجديد لهذه الدولة الجميلة. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, my name is Abdullah Mujahid. As I know, our mayor, Ed Lee, has a lot of distress. Kill him. Not the heart attack. I am the one who's survived with 9-time heart attack, 6-time heart operation I have, and I survived. And I am here time after time to fight for the homeless people. I would like to open our new mayor eyes for what the city need decent people. You can't have distress kill you like happened to our Ed Lee. I am worried about every one of you, like you worry about me. I would like to tell you the truth about it. Number one, I would like to give my sympathy to his widow and his 2 lovely daughters. He left him. I wish to see them here beside me to fight with me as homeless advocate. Sooner or later, we're going to find the person who deserved to be our mayor. But what we need besides that, we need a temporary and we need regular assistant mayor to help him about the people you put them in the shelter, and they are same people steal the food of the homeless and steal any donation they have. That's the way I want you to open your eyes. If we have mayor fight for the city and bring it housing and building job for people, we must have.
Thank you, Abdullah. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Thank you very much.
At the same time, my reason returned unto me, and for the glory of my kingdom, mine honor and brightness returned unto me, and my counselors and my lords sought unto me, and I was established in my kingdom, and excellent majesty was added unto me. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and extol and honor the King of heaven, all whose works are truth. Now, this was the profession that the king made after his wings, you might say, were plucked and his reason was given back to him. He honestly thought that he was a lion, and he crawled around for 7 years thinking he was a lion until God gave him his reason. And it's quite fascinating that today is day 7,992 from when 20 years ended. They ended March 20th, 1996. March 21st, 1996 began the 70th Jubilee, and it is my studied opinion that on day 8,000, the new moon is going to be, right around that time is going to be Judgment Day. It'll be 6,000 days from 9/11. And what if I'm right? What if I'm right? I'm telling you, the Bible teaches that you have to be saved by good works. This is the problem. We have to be saved by good works. And I'm here to testify, I've never had one day in my life where I was good, as defined by Jesus Christ. Okay? So we have to be saved by the good works of another, and that is the Lord Jesus Christ. He died for our sins. He resurrected for our justification. The only way that God can justify a guilty sinner that deserves to be judged is if they believe on Jesus. This is why Jesus said the biggest sin is not to believe in me. Nevertheless, I tell you the truth, it's expedient for you that I go away, for if I go not away, the Comforter.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
World tragedies are caused by the corruption of human hearts, of endless greedy desires of humankind, lead to the bad competition of local unrest and international warfare, that the world comes to be in a state of disorder. World rescues work on the uprightness of social morality for leading on the people in taking the right path to do the right things with peace and harmony. The uprightness of social morality works on the cultivation of holiness with meditation in practices and one mission of holy mercy. Solely by the cultivation and works of holy studies, meditation practices, establishment of virtues, and world mission, then the people under tragic conditions can achieve the ultimate spiritual liberation of world salvation. For the world rescues are to be successful, every one of the people must work hard to purify and to cleanse one's heart in attaining the uprightness of morality. One can, having achievement of personal cultivation, keeping the family in good order, managing a strong and wealthy nation, and making peace and wellness for the world of heaven below. World leaders must deliver teachings of the true principles to the people, as well as applying economic and political pressure for achieving the fruitful results of maintaining the uprightness of social morality to end world tragedies and world disorder. With holiness and mercy shall unite the world to gain forever peace and harmony for the true perfection and true happiness of humankind. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. President Breed, ladies and gentlemen of the board, I ask for your resignations. You violated your oaths of office. You swore to defend the U.S. Constitution against all enemies, yet you countenance the continued operation of citywide case management community focus or after citywide, a joint project with the San Francisco campus of the University of California, which the city and county funds at the rate of approximately $100 million per year. Citywide is this city and county's assertive community treatment provider. As such, they are responsible for involuntarily medicating and performing involuntary medical and surgical procedures upon residents of this city and county, which they are only able to do by violating their patients' rights to life and liberty without due process of law guaranteed by U.S. Constitution Amendment 5. Citywide also denies its patients freedom of meditation, freedom of association, and the right to petition the government with grievances, all guaranteed by U.S. Constitution Amendment 1. Citywide perpetrates unreasonable searches and seizures without warrants in violation of U.S. Constitution Amendment 4. Citywide denies its patients the right to confront their accusers guaranteed by U.S. Constitution Amendment 6. Citywide denies its patients the right to jury trials guaranteed by U.S. Constitution Amendment 7. Citywide exacts cruel and unusual punishment from its patients in violation of U.S. Constitution Amendment 8. Citywide denies its patients personal security and bodily integrity guaranteed by U.S. Constitution Amendment 9. Citywide uses medicine to control its patients unnecessarily because it offers them no avenue of complaint. It violates U.S. Constitution Amendment 13. Citywide denies its patients equal treatment under the laws guaranteed by U.S. Constitution Amendment 14. You are knowledgeable of these violations, yet you do nothing to prevent them. Therefore, you violated your oaths of office. I ask for your resignations. Back to you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Patricia Voy. I hope I'm different. I'm here about discrimination. And what I'm seeing right now are people using discrimination in the wrong way for political goals. I'm talking about the vote last week concerning Italian heritage. Whether it's right or wrong, we should have had an Indigenous Day and an Italian Day. The Italians have lived in this city and built this city. They built Bank of America, which was for this little people. And we really, really, really need to, need to look into what we're doing in this city. Look into your mirrors and see what you have really done recently to see how many people you have hurt, because I have heard about it for the last week. I've had at-risk programs for all nationalities. And what I'm seeing is something that I saw back in the Mabel Tang era. The Chinese versus the gays versus the blacks versus the whites. Comments made at this board. I would like for everybody to say we're doing something for all of us, not just for one of us. Fees should be for all of us. I really firmly believe that we can do better, and I expect a new bill, a new resolution to come dedicating Italian Heritage Day as well as a special day for the indigenous people. I really firmly believe that we need to change our rhetoric and start working as a group of all citizens, not just one citizen for another, for political gain. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
I object to item number 11, where you want to get rid of rental units in the inclusionary rule. First of all, the inclusionary rule...
Sir, I'm pausing your time. You are
Pardon?
not... I'm pausing your time. This will not come from your time. Item 11 is on the agenda and has already had public comment during its committee. So here at public comment, you are only able to speak on items 16 and 17, the far back end of the agenda. I'm going to resume your time now.
16 and 17.
You can speak generally about the issues, but just don't speak about item 11.
Well, I'm speaking generally about, because they're all related, you know, everything that you talked about. It's just like when you brought up that you're recommending that the police take a bias course. It's ideal for the Board of Supervisors to take a bias course because you've been biased yourselves. For example, you give Twitter $3.1 billion free money in tax breaks and 5 other companies. Okay, this has been going on for the past several years. A minimum of $217 billion of uncollected taxes. Then I watched one of your members of the board on the news ridicule small businessmen and women who can't pay the rent in their businesses and board up their organizations where they rent, and you claim that they're providing blight within the neighborhoods where they try to conduct their business. But yet you give preferential treatment to high-tech companies like Twitter and the 5 other high-tech companies. You need to take a bias course on that. That's differential treatment. Then you give additional differential treatment to homeless teachers by building an apartment building complex for homeless teachers, but yet when you come to homeless people that's other than teachers, you don't build apartment building complex for people who are not homeless teachers. That's another example. You get a building that's available at 440 Turk Street that's 28,000 square feet, eligible for 79 studio apartment buildings on the top floor and 79 more units on the bottom floor, and 2 additional large units, which is eligible for a family units, and you take funds and provide those funds, $32 million for Jeff Kaczynski to move his office and his staff in that building. We have an emergency pertaining to homeless situations here, to house homeless people, not to house.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your comments, sir. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon. My name is John Fitch. The sudden death of Mayor Edwin Lee not only touched the citizens in San Francisco, but touched this chamber very personally. Who or what stopped former acting mayor London Breed from attending the mayor's conference from January 23rd to January 26th? Not as a Republican, not as a Democrat, but as an acting mayor who had the right to attend, since she was that link in the chain and what kept the flow of the city to continue and can't be changed unless she committed a crime. Ms. Breed also had the right to attend, since the position and duties had fallen into her lap. That's why unbroken continuity in the city government was created. Ms. Breed could have delivered thoughts and inspiration to whom she still credit her parents and Edwin Lee for what she knows and what she is. They're the ones who opened her eyes. This would have given Mayor Lee brothers and sisters a chance to grieve together over the loss of one of their own. Ms. London Breed was automatically elected to serve as an unbroken link in the chain. But it wasn't enough for you to come together, for Ms. Breed to join actual mayors across the land to grieve together. To all the board members in this chamber, in order to do right, to be right, you must do right. You all share the same room and the same American flag. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker, please.
The overhead. Thank you. Tom Gilberti. Last week I remarked about a professional rolled joint of sativa, marijuana, and how it basically is, I'll use reference to this photo here, is a calm sea. And it's nice, pleasant skies. I referred to another professional rolled joint of indica, which is basically you're in port and you're sleeping in a bed and the sound of the diesel engine is gone and you're just happy to be lying there alive. I also brought in a cigarette and I put it on Victory at Sea here, and I refer to it as sinking one of your liberty ships in the convoy of your life force, just sinking another one. Marijuana is a help. I refer to Victory at Sea as a great moment in our life. World War II is a great moment in our life. And I also, what we did with that great moment in our life is revealed in a nice, wonderful book written by David Talbot, The Devil's Chessboard. A good read. Find out how America affected the governments and the elections of people around the world. Here is another book that we may be the best we can ever be to find out what happened to Martin Luther King, who 50 years ago has basically 2 months to live. Even if 90% or 85% of this book, and I think it's as close as we're going to get, we find out kind of where our government, and we need to trust our government. We need to trust our elections. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
My name is Francisco da Costa, and I represent the First People of San Francisco de Muacmalone. Our chairperson came into these chambers and stated to y'all that we need to unite this city. People talk about implicit biasness, and they should add cultural competency. And I've been following them for a long time. You can talk the talk, but it's more important to walk the walk. And one of the ways we find about people not walking the walk is when we follow the money. So even though people purport to represent one district, they buy a house in another district, they used to live in another district, till they remedied the situation because their heart is not in the right place. Now, I was here on the 23rd of January when this place was a mess. There is a time to heal, but you cannot heal if spiritually you're not strong. If you worship mammon, or if you love money, if you meet FBI agents for favors only to find out that you got trapped, if you do not help a 100-year-old black woman, but yet purport that you're going to represent the people of San Francisco, shame on you. And as I said, I represent the First People of San Francisco. I believe in unity. And I believe that people should have their heart in the right place.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other members of the public who would like to address the board during general public comment? Madam President.
Thank you. Seeing no other members of the public who'd like to provide public comment. Okay, come on up. Anyone else, if you could line up to the right.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. My name is C.W. Johnson, and I just want to talk about a really wonderful program that is going to be going as June 30th. I'm not sure if you're aware of this thing called the warm line chat line that serves over 40,000 people, and what it is a place where people can call who have mental health issues. It helps to keep people out of the hospital. It saves a lot of money. It keeps peers that have mental health challenges that also go to college. It keeps a lot of people working. And for some reason, this seems to be a little too unknown program that's serving over 40,000 people. We've been around for about 3 years, and our numbers are into 120,000 people that we've served over the last 3 years. And so to have this is really a tragedy to have this program just end. And so we're going to probably be giving out packages at some point to let you know what the program is about and things like that. But I just want you to be on your radar that this is a great service that is happening that really needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Supervisors and President Breed. We have developed a social enterprise that will train and hire disenfranchised people across our city. Our training and orientation period is 2 weeks, and what we offer is a base pay of $20 per hour and incentive-based pay raises up to $25 an hour for the colleagues that take a trade and return to school and get a degree. We will provide uniforms, balanced lunches, dental and medical assistance with child care and for single parents. And the only way they can get a raise or advance is through going to school. We are partnering with BFC, Brothers for Change, a community-based program in the Fillmore that is dedicated to changing the current narrative attached to people of color and we work with Swords to Plowshares because our entire middle management team will be veterans. Our mission statement is very simple: to offer jobs that support the advancement of our colleagues, and that anyone that desires to make a change in their lives get the opportunity. Our plans are to have 300 full-time people working in San Francisco in our first quarter of business. By hiring through nonprofits citywide, we have a green business using certified LEED products, and we plan to make an impact in San Francisco. Our social enterprise, Make 'em Shine, is the model, and we need your support. So I'm going to leave my card. Thank you. Here.
Are there any other members of the public who'd like to provide public comment at this time? Seeing none, public comment is now closed. Madam Clerk, can you please read the items for adoption without reference to committee?
Items 16 and 17 are being considered for adoption without committee reference. A single roll call vote may enact these items. Otherwise, an item may be severed and considered separately.
Okay, seeing no names on the roster, Madam Clerk, on the items, please call the roll. Oh, never mind. Supervisor Stephanie.
Added as a co-sponsor.
Okay.
Thank you.
And on item 17, I have amendments that should have been passed out to everybody.
You would like to talk about item number 17, so we will do them separately.
Okay.
Okay. And for the record, I have already notified the clerk to add Supervisor Yee as a co-sponsor of item number 16 as well. Supervisor Peskin.
I was just going to sever item 17, but it has been severed.
Okay. Supervisor Safai.
Please add me as a sponsor for item number 16 as well.
Okay. Seeing no names on the roster, Madam. Add
Item
Supervisor
16.
Cohen.
Thank you.
And seeing no other names on the roster, on item number 16, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Ronan. Ronan, aye. Supervisor Safai.
Aye.
Safai, aye. Supervisor Sheehy. Sheehy, aye. Supervisor Stephanie. Stephanie, aye. Supervisor Tang.
Aye.
Tang, aye. Supervisor Yee.
Aye.
Yee, aye. Supervisor Breed.
Aye.
Breed, aye. Supervisor Cohen.
Aye.
Cohen, aye. Supervisor Fewer. Fewer, aye. Supervisor Kim. Kim, aye. Supervisor Peskin.
Aye.
Peskin, aye. There are 11 ayes.
Okay, the resolution is adopted unanimously. Madam Clerk, call item number 17, please.
Item 17 is a motion to adopt findings reversing the determination by the Planning Department that the proposed project at 2417 Green Street is categorically exempt from further environmental review.
Okay. Supervisor Stephanie.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, I've had the opportunity to watch the CEQA appeal hearing and have made changes to the motion adopting the findings, reversing the findings of the CADEX for 2417 Green Street. And I do have those for your review. You should have a copy at your desk. I think it's important to note the language of Supervisor Farrell's motion, wherein he stated, and I am concerned there is substantial evidence in the record before the board that the project presents unusual circumstances relating to historic resources and hazardous materials, and it appears as a result of those circumstances, the project may have a significant effect on the environment, and that's my motion. So those were the words of Supervisor Farrell, and in reviewing the motion that was originally put forth, I thought that a few changes were necessary. Although Supervisor Farrell's motion did not prescribe the level of environmental review that the Planning Department has to undergo on its next look at this, he did state, and that this board did find, that based on the substantial evidence presented at the hearing, a CADEX should not have been granted. I believe the motion you have before you reflects the substance of what occurred at the hearing on January 9th, and I have reviewed this with the city's attorney's office, and I believe they are in support.
Thank you. Supervisor Stephanie has made a motion, seconded by Supervisor Peskin. Colleagues, can we take that without objection? Without objection, the item has been amended. And on the item as amended, can we take that same house, same call? Without objection, the motion as amended is adopted unanimously. All right. So, colleagues, we are at the end of our agenda. However, we do have 3:30 commendations that we cannot call before 3:30. Am I correct, Madam Clerk?
That's correct, Madam President.
So we will recess until 3:30. Please be on time. Thank you.
SF Gov TV, San Francisco Government Television.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Aaron Peskin, and it is my privilege to serve as a supervisor representing the 3rd Supervisorial District. For those of you who do not know, I have long served in another capacity as the president of an environmental nonprofit that for the past 20 years has worked to negotiate the purchase of land and water rights on behalf of Native American tribes in the Great Basin region of the United States. For those of you who do not know where that is the great state of Nevada, Utah, parts of Arizona and Oregon. And before that, I worked at the Trust for Public Land. And today, I am honored to help lead with my colleagues, President London Breed, Supervisor Malia Cohen, our former supervisor who first championed this issue, John Avalos, in favor of our retirement system's full divestment from fossil fuels. I just want to start by thanking the broad coalition of environmental advocates, of public health advocates, of clean fuel transportation advocates, of current and former elected officials, of Democratic Party officials, grassroots advocates, and retirement board members, and as of last night, the Commission on the Environment, who have turned out today to demand that San Francisco employee retirement system divest now from fossil fuels, and we're getting to labor. We are saving the best for last. And I mean that sincerely, and it is in my notes. I want to start by saying that SEIU 10-1, Local 798, represented by Keith Baraka, have been the wind at our backs. I cannot thank you enough. To the folks from DAPL, I cannot thank you enough, and we will hear from all of them. I want to start not with our president, not with our retirement board member, but with our former supervisor. We have a lot of great speakers, but this all started with Supervisor John Avalos, who has had Standing Rock's back, who first issued the resolution that was unanimously adopted by the board 5 years ago that has not yet been heeded, but perhaps with Malia Cohen's leadership will be heeded today. Former Supervisor John Avalos.
Good morning. It's really great to be here, but also kind of strange to be here 5 years after we had first voted unanimously to call upon the SFRs to divest from fossil fuels. Since that time, I am now a retiree of the city and county of San Francisco, so I am actually one who is actually dependent on the SFRs fund. And what we see and what we've done in 5 years of analysis is that we know that fossil fuel investments is a bad investment. We are seeing the great volatility of fossil fuels all across the country, while our SFR's overall fund has grown from about $19 billion in 2013 to $23 billion in 2018. Our fossil fuel portfolio has only stayed about the same, meaning that this is a really poor investment while we're seeing growth elsewhere. We know why this is a bad investment, because we are seeing increasingly the harm that's caused to low-income communities of color, to cities and towns along the waterfronts of the world are suffering from sea level rise, from dramatic climate events, from hurricanes and typhoons, and in California we have our fires. These are all signs that our economy founded on oil and fossil fuel is one that harms life on Earth. And it's way past time that we actually start moving our economy to renewable power, renewable energy generation. We have called upon SFRs for 5 years to do this, to take our money out of fossil fuels, to put them in renewables, and they have dragged their feet all along the way. It's almost as if they have the climate-denying people of the Donald Trump administration who are on the board to deny the very fact that the world is becoming harmed every day as we continue to invest in fossil fuels. So I want to thank Supervisor Peskin, Supervisor London Breed, Supervisor Malia Cohen for continuing with this work of trying to make SFRs do its part to divest. And today we'll see whether they're going to move this the way they really have had to all these 5 years. It's time to divest. Divest now. SFRs, your time is up. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Avalos. This has been a tough 24 hours in this building, but President Breed said something which is profoundly important, that our relationships have to transcend, and that, number one, it's all about public policy. And with that, under President Breed's leadership, we again unanimously adopted last year the same resolution that a different board adopted when John Avalos was on the Board of Supervisors. It is my pleasure to introduce, on the same policy page, the President of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, London Breed.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm happy to join many of our environmental leaders and our community members and members of the Board of Supervisors and everyone who is here today who is committed to a cleaner planet for future generations. There are many people to thank, but I want to start by thanking Supervisor Malia Cohen, who is a member of the Retirement Board, who has been leading the fight on this divestment at the Retirement Board, along with Victor Macris, who is also a member of the Retirement Board. Thank you both for your relentless fight to do the right thing. I want to acknowledge former Supervisor Sophie Maxwell for her longtime work to protect at-risk communities from polluting power plants. And I want to thank labor, the members of SEIU 1021 and members of 350.org for all of your advocacy and staying on top of this very important issue. And finally, I want to thank members of the Commission on the Environment for their ongoing advocacy on this measure. San Francisco has always been a national and global trailblazer for environmental practices. We have reduced greenhouse gas emissions 28% below 1990 levels, cleaning our air while our population was growing and our economy was booming. We have launched our Clean Power program, Clean Power SF, the single most important thing we can do to combat climate change, and I was proud to lead that initiative here on the Board of Supervisors. With the enrollment of Clean Power SF, we are well on our way to achieving our 50% renewable target by 2020 and 100% by 2030. Goals that even outpace the ambitious goals set by the state of California. And we are providing reliable energy at great prices. Through the work of so many community leaders, we closed the last 2 fossil fuel plants 8 years ago in this city. And we are leading the nation in waste reduction and resource recovery thanks to the recycling and composting programs. We are recovering more than 80% of materials from landfill. And we are preventing many harmful products from entering our city at all. We were the first in the country to ban plastic bags, and through legislation I proudly wrote, we have the strongest styrofoam ban in the country and a drug take-back program that has already kept more than 24,000 pounds out of the bay and landfill. That is what we are doing here in San Francisco. San Francisco has been at the forefront of so many groundbreaking environmental issues, and today our retirement board has a chance to make history. We cannot continue investing in companies that pollute our earth and hasten climate change. It's time to divest. It's time to divest. It's time to divest. It's time to divest. And do so quickly. Washington, D.C. may ignore climate change. Our president may ignore climate change. But here in San Francisco, we are going to put this at the forefront. We are going to make sure that they know we have to make change, and we have to make change now. It's not fair to our planet and future generations to come. Divest now, do the right thing, let's get this done. Thank you all so much for being here today.
Thank you, President London Breed, and thank you for shouting out Supervisor Sophie Maxwell. When I first was a member of the Board of Supervisors, we had 2 polluting fossil fuel plants in this city, both of them in District 10. The Hunters Point plant, which Supervisor Maxwell led the fight on closing, and years later, with the incredible work of the City Attorney's Office and Dennis Herrera, the Potrero plant, the Morant plant, was subsequently closed. Thank you, Supervisor Maxwell. As Supervisor Breed said, at the forefront of this, inside the belly of the beast, Supervisor Cohen has been a stalwart in making sure that we divest. And that vote is happening shortly. She has to go into closed session at 11:30. Supervisor Cohen has been leading that fight, and God willing, a little after 1 p.m., we will get that vote. It is still on the bubble, but I know that Malia is going to make it happen. Supervisor Malia Cohen.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. I first really want to recognize many people that have brought us to this point today. I don't see Jed Holtzman, but he's with 350.org. He's around here. He's been organizing for years, walking the halls of City Hall, and also attending the SF Retirement Board's retirement meetings, long meetings, for years. I also do want to recognize Supervisor Peskin for bringing this issue to us and lending his voice in the desire to put pressure on the staff to make this vote happen today. I also want to recognize Supervisor Avalos. He took an unpopular position very early on, and want to appreciate his leadership style, although it differs from mine. But nonetheless, here we are here today. And I think this is a testament that you need both moderate and left support to make this happen. This is not a political issue. This is really the right thing to do when you think about the health and wellness of our entire world. I want to recognize the members of SEIU 10 to 1 who have been fearless, who have come and have spoken, and who have waited and spoken in 2-minute intervals. Many of you I had to cut off because your comments were too long, but it is very good to see you all. The retirees also making the most of their retirement time, coming out to support. I want to also recognize the number of staff persons that have helped me and to educate me on the importance and on this movement and how we can continue to move forward. I also want to uplift and recognize our indigenous folks that are also here that led the way when they were fighting DAPL. So there are many people whose shoulders I stand on and that we need to uplift and we need to recognize, because the seriousness of this issue that we're going to be voting on today is not missed on me. We all know that fossil fuel emissions are harming our children, they're harming our health, and doing irreparable damage to our planet. As a city, we cannot build our pensions on the health and well-being of our children and our future generations. But divestment is not just a moral imperative. This is not just a talking point. This is not just a political issue of the day. As a fiduciary member, we have a responsibility. As a fiduciary member of the retirement board, I've got a commitment and a responsibility to ensure that every person that serves the city and county of San Francisco can retire with dignity, can retire with assurance that their pension is safe, that no one is taking a gamble. The investments in fossil fuel endanger that promise. The Board of Supervisors has repeatedly demanded that FERS staff implement a divestment plan, and yet, frankly, we have no plan. The, quote, engagement strategy that has probably had a hand in Jed Holtzman's hair being falling out. I think you would agree that engagement strategy has been very hard to stomach. The staff has touted it, but it has touted this strategy, but honestly, there has been no accountability. They have had no mandated timeline for any company's responsiveness to level 2 engagement. Now, I'm getting in the weeds, but the retirement board has a process on how they pull back divestments, and it's a multi-level, multi-tiered response. They have no metrics for evaluating how much pollution is too much pollution. They have not identified, quote, an acceptable ratio of returns to emissions. The due diligence hasn't been done. The process for evaluating environmental, social, and governance risk has been haphazard and frankly inconsistent. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a breach of fiduciary duty. As our city continues to pay out money for health care, as the city continues to invest in mitigating sea level rise and trying to prevent flooding on our streets, we must put our money where our mouth is. We must stand up and we must shout out. Our pension investments must not exacerbate these issues. The city of San Francisco has a fiduciary obligation to limit fossil fuel investments for the safety of our residents and for the well-being of our employees, both working and retired. I call on my colleagues on the retirement board to join us, to take our children's future seriously, to commit to analyzing our environment risk, and to finally divest from fossil fuels. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand with you. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to casting my vote this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Cohen. I want to make a few more shout-outs. First, as we just heard, this is not a conservative issue. This is not a liberal issue. This is not a moderate issue. This is not a progressive issue. This is a moral and financial imperative. And to that end, Supervisor Cohen, Supervisor Breed, and myself serve as members of the Democratic County Central Committee, the San Francisco Democratic Party. And it was our colleague Keith Baraka from the firefighters, Local 798, who introduced a resolution urging the retirement board to divest. That passed unanimously, 31 members of the San Francisco Democratic Party. So I want to say thank you, Keith Baraka, for that leadership. Thank you to Bay.org. Thank you to Fossil Free SF. to SEIU 10-1, to Idle No More, Indian People Organized for Change, the Chinese Progressive Association, Next Gen America, SF Bernie-crats, and the list goes on, and the Sierra Club. How could we forget the Sierra Club? And last night, with incredible testimony from Victor Macris, who really talked about the way the investment industry works, about scorecards. Out of the $500 million that the San Francisco employee retirement system has invested in fossil fuels, over 20% of it has not yielded a positive return to the fund, just what Supervisor Cohen was saying, for 5 years or more. That's what we call a bad investment. That is a bad investment. This decision can be made as a fiduciary decision and as a moral imperative, as we did around guns and ammunition and tobacco. So it makes prudent sense for the retirement system to divest. I want to shout out the commissioners gathered here who took the very bold step and at the Commission on the Environment last evening voted for full divestment within 180 days, which is a strong demand. Thank you, Commissioners Eddie An, Lisa Hoyos, and President Elmi Bermejo. And with that, I would like to bring up Isabel Zizi from the Idle No More, SF Bay, SF Defund, DAPL Coalition, who is a young leader, truly a grassroots leader. And thank you, Isabel, for being here, and thank you for your work.
Good morning, relatives. Again, my name is Isabella Zizi. I come from the Northern Cheyenne, Arikara, and Muskogee Creek tribes. I'm 23 years old, and I live on occupied Ohlone territory. And I want to first pay acknowledgement to the Ohlone people of this very land that we do stand on, because Indigenous voices, Indigenous rights, Indigenous sovereignty is important to remember and important to acknowledge. I am a member of Idle No More SF Bay, SF Defund DAPO Coalition, and a signatory of the Indigenous Women of the Americas Defending Mother Earth Treaty. I want to start by saying we welcome the Pension Board and the SEIU public sector workers to join our ranks as water protectors, air and land defenders as well. This vote to defund is critical. It's critical to protecting the water. The divestment vote and the movement in San Francisco has been initiated and fostered by long-standing grassroots, Indigenous advocacy throughout Turtle Island, and mobilizing groups that have fought long and hard for this moment today. We've seen and continue to see the violations of Indigenous rights and the threats to our water and all of the sacred systems of life. The standoff at Standing Rock to stop the Dakota Access Pipeline is not over, and it's just the beginning to show that the many other Standing Rocks around the world that we are not afraid to stand up to big oil and to divest. The assault on Mother Earth is real. This climate crisis is real. And all who are living and those yet to be born need clean air, clean water, and clean soil. And we need to remember that. We all need clean air, clean water, and clean soil to live a healthy and sufficient life here on Mother Earth. And I want to thank the San Francisco Board for hearing us out and responding to the frontline call to divest from fossil fuel projects and the investments. And last, I want you all to know that my generation, the next 7 generations, and all of our non-human relatives, we thank you for this, and we will be completely relieved of any hardships. And I send my best regards to the vote in favor for us to divest completely of fossil fuel projects and infrastructure, expansions, and any investments, because we all know that we need to keep it in the ground, keep that oil in the ground, keep fossil fuels in the ground, and divest. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zizi, for those profound words. Before I introduce the final speaker, I want to say that all aspects of our government, minus the SFR's board, at least until 1 o'clock this afternoon, are on the same page. And I want to shout out our city attorney, Dennis Herrera, who has initiated some of the most groundbreaking litigation against some of the largest fossil fuel polluters in the United States of America. And the reason I bring that up is because as cities and states start this kind of litigation, these investments become more and more risky. These become stranded assets. And I speak to you not only as a member of the Board of Supervisors, but as a member of the California Coastal Commission, where last year more emergency permits were applied for because of sea level rise, king tides, beaches being buried under the sea than in any previous year. As we just heard, this is real. We would not be here without the strong support of labor advocates. SEIU 10-1 has led on this fight, and they take it personally because many of their members have vested pensions invested in these risky big oil assets. Thank you, Joseph Bryant. Thank you, Martha Hawthorne. Thank you to SEIU 10-1. And with that, my friend, Joseph Bryant.
Who's ready to divest in fossil fuels? And we're not in the chamber. I want to hear some noise. Who is ready to divest in dirty fossil fuels? That's right. That's right. First off, again, Joseph Bryant. I'm the Regional Vice President of SEIU 10-1. We represent over 55,000 workers in Northern California. Here in San Francisco, we represent over 15,000 city workers who are vested in the city's pension fund. And we're urging the Board of Retirement to divest in dirty fossil fuels now. I want to give a huge shout out to everyone who's played an important role in this, and it's really been a village that's come together to help move this. Thank you, former Supervisor Avalos. Thank you, Supervisor Peskin, Supervisor Cohen, President Breed, also the Commission on the Environment for your resolution passed last evening. Thank you very much. And I'd be remiss without acknowledging our retirees here who have broken their backs in ensuring that this is one of the priorities for SEIU 10-1, particularly Martha Hawthorne, David Page, many others here who have really led this fight. I want to thank them so much. So with this, we have reached the point of insanity. It is a bad investment. We are losing money on this investment. It is destroying our communities, and we still have to spend our time, energy, and effort here to fight for it. What is going on? This is absolutely insane. We should not, with all that we're facing right now, all the challenges that we're facing from the federal level, from throughout this country, we're having to spend our time in the most progressive city in this country to fight for a very basic concept, to do the right thing, to divest in fossil fuels. We're here for that, and when we ask for the divestment of fossil fuels, we're not just asking to say, do it eventually. We want a timeline. We want something real. We need something real. So please join us today. SEIU 10-1, again, is an adamant supporter. We will be up there in the chamber causing whatever ruckus we need to ensure this happens. Thank you very much.
All right, let's keep it real. Let's make it real. At 1 p.m. at 1145 Market Street on the 6th floor is the meeting. I hope all of us will be there, sitting in the audience, ready to testify at this public meeting. And with that, Martha Hawthorne is going to lead us in a few chants. Thank you.
When I open up the paper every day, I'm just amazed at how many different environmental issues keep popping up. And when I think about what kind of planet I want to leave for my children and for other generations, I think about what kind of contribution I can make on a personal level to the environment.
Clean Power SF is San Francisco's key way of fighting climate change by buying renewable energy and offering it to San Francisco electricity customers. I'm Julia Allman. I'm a utility specialist with Clean Power SF at the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission. The program came about with statewide legislation in 2002 that enabled communities to take more control over their energy supply.
As a Sierra Club member, I first heard about the program when the organization was advocating for the city to launch Clean Power SF. And what I'm most excited about is that Clean Power SF is not only going to bring me 100% renewable energy to my home, it's also going to reinvest those ratepayer dollars into renewable energy infrastructure and jobs. I'm Sheila Chung-Hagen, and I'm a San Francisco resident living in Bernal Heights. I had gone to lots of street fairs and heard from the staff at the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission about the opportunity to sign up for Clean Power SF even before it launched.
We learned about Clean Power SF because our sustainability team is always looking for opportunities to purchase clean energy to power our operations. I'm Peggy Brannigan, Global Program Manager for Environmental Sustainability at LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the world's largest professional online network. There are about 530 million members using our site. In this San Francisco office, there are about 1,400 employees, and they're working in roughly 400,000 square feet.
After we signed up for Marin Clean's energy program, we heard about the San Francisco program and learned that they had commercial rates, and so we signed up for that as well. I'm Brett Thurber. I'm the co-owner of the New Wheel electric bike shop in San Francisco. We opened this store in 2012, and the New Wheel was started to sell electric bikes and service electric bikes. 11 people work here in San Francisco, and our store here is about 2,000 square feet. Electric bikes are fantastic for transportation in the city. They're clean, they're green, you get places faster than any other form of transportation. Basically, electric bike amplifies your power. It doesn't replace it, so it just makes it easier for you to go get places by bicycle. That's also just so enjoyable and such a environmentally friendly way to go. And honestly, it's more convenient too in San Francisco.
Clean Power SF offers two products to our customers. So green is a 40% renewable product, and that's competitively priced with PG&E. For those who really want to up their commitment to green power and help fight climate change a bit more, we offer Super Green, which is 100% renewable, and that comes at a small premium, 2 cents per kilowatt hour, and generally for an average residential customer, it costs only $5 or $6 more per month.
I decided to go with the Super Green because after taking a look at the options and finding out that it was only going to cost about $5 more per month to be able to go super green and have 100% renewable energy, I thought that's really a no-brainer. I can do that.
We were especially pleased that Clean Power SF offers the super green 100% clean energy not only for commercial entities like ours, but also for residents of the city of San Francisco. So we were pleased with the package of services they offered for LinkedIn, and we are now encouraging our employees who have a residence in San Francisco to sign on as well.
Clean Power SF buys its power from renewable energy generating plants that feed that energy directly into the grid.
There is a commitment to sustainability throughout this entire organization, and this clean power opportunity reflects that.
One of the wind farms we use to supply Clean Power SF customers is the Shiloh Wind Farm in Solano County. That wind farm is large enough to be able to provide energy to up to 32,000 homes.
At the New Wheel, our mission is a sustainability mission. Even though our bikes are very minimal energy use, it still matters where that energy comes from. And also, part of our mission in sustainability is how we run everything, run our business. And so having the lights come on with clean energy is very important to us as well.
The Sunset Reservoir is outfitted with solar panels that take up about 4 city blocks covering the reservoir, and the solar power generates energy for city resources and as well for Clean Power SF for residents that are participating in the program.
It was really easy for me to sign up for the program. I just went online to cleanpowersf.org. I signed up, and then I started getting a couple of different pieces in the mail letting me know that I was going to be switched over, and then poof, it just happened. Now when I pay my bill, I still go to PG&E. I still get, their bill, and I don't see any difference from paying now than I did a year ago.
You can sign up online at cleanpowersf.org. Just have your PG&E account number ready, and it takes about 2 minutes, and there's nothing to install.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are back from recess, and just to notify members of the public, we have completed our entire agenda for the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. So we are here for one reason and one reason only: to celebrate Black History Month and to honor some incredible individuals who have made an incredible difference here in the city and county of San Francisco. And although each of us thinks that our honoree is the best honoree in the building, we all know that everyone here today is special in their own right because of what you have done in your communities, in your city, to make the lives of others better. And that's why we're here today, to celebrate the African American members of our community and their contributions to our city. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Supervisor Malia Cohen, who will set the tone for the occasion, and will call upon each supervisor to give their honorees their award. Thank you all very much.
All right, good afternoon. Happy Black History Month. How are you out there? It's exciting times we're living through. We're making history. Every breath that we take, every action that we take, we are making history. So I want to just say good afternoon and welcome everyone to this year's Black History Month celebration. As you know, my name is Malia Cohen. I'm a native daughter, born and reared in San Francisco, educated in public schools, took the public bus, spent time studying in the public library. Everything that I am, I owe to this city and county of San Francisco. And for that, I want to thank my parents, and I want to thank the entire community whose shoulders I stand on just to be here before you today. Thank you. As many of you know, I represent the southeastern neighborhoods of Bayview, Hunters Point, Potrero Hill, Dogpatch, and Visitation Valley. And I'm proud to be one of 2 African Americans serving this city at this time right here in the board chamber. I would like to also point out that I'm the senior ranking member, only in time served. She's actually older, for the record. She said just by a little bit. Little does she know. All right, folks, so today is an opportunity for us to recognize, to honor, and most importantly, to celebrate African Americans who are putting in the work to uplift varying communities through their service. Because many of you know, we are not monolithic. We have very different lenses that we view this world in. We've had many different experiences, and our experience is a summation of intersectional relationships across the globe. And I want to give well-earned homage to individuals from the African American community. Far too often, we recognize the work and the contributions of leaders who have passed passed away, instead of giving them the respect and the recognition they deserve while they are here with us today. And I want to take a moment and recognize that it's particularly important for us to take time in this venue to recognize the Black community and Black public service. And this is not only about past work and past sacrifices, but we are also here to celebrate recognizing the Black future. And so I think we should call this Black Future Month. If we know one thing, we know that it's hard work working in the public service field. Nothing new for African Americans. I mean, you could just come to public comment on any given Tuesday and experience what it's like to be in public service. But one thing that is consistent is that we show up. We show up. We show up for democracy, and we're loyal. And when the party, or sometimes even our own allies, don't recognize that, it is incumbent upon us to show up for each other. We're living in very unique times. But despite the actions of those around us to undermine or, quite frankly, flat out not support our success, our brilliance, our strength, our resiliency, it is our resiliency that has carried us through these challenging times in the past and will continue to carry us into the future. Lastly, I'd like to invite you to President Breed's and mine Black History Month celebration. It's something we started 5 years ago, and it continues. We close out the wonderful month of February with a big celebration right here in the Rotunda. So you are all my invited guests. It's happening February 28th from 5:30 to 9:30. It's going to be right outside these doors in the Rotunda. We have fabulous food. If you thought that reception was nice, you want to come to this event. We have fabulous food. We've got whiskey sampling and tasting. We've got wine. And again, we are supporting the African American businesses that make San Francisco the wonderful, vibrant city that it is. So please come on down and please join us. So with that said, I want to take a moment. I want to uplift the people that make me look good, the people that support me, and that is my staff. I want to recognize Alia Chiste, who's been instrumental in pulling together the reception that you were able to enjoy. I want to recognize Brittany Chikwata and also Sophia Kittler. And with that said, I also want to uplift and recognize President Breed's staff, who's also been equally helpful in pulling all of this together. So without further ado, I'd like to kick off our celebration by recognizing my own honoree first. It's the privilege of being able to preside over today's celebration. So ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. I want to introduce to you a wonderful woman, a pioneer who's been doing a lot of the work unbeknownst to many of us. I want to recognize Sion Lencho. She also goes by the name of Sunshine. Will Miss Sunshine come on down, please? So I'm excited to present this woman to you because you're probably going to be hearing and learning a little bit more about her as we continue to move forward. Here's a little bit about her background. She's a daughter of immigrant parents. Miss Lencho learned early on the importance of serving her community. As a graduate of Stanford Law School, she has dedicated her career to shaping the future of the global cannabis industry. Ms. Lencho has served on the Oakland Cannabis Regulatory Commission as well as on the board of California Growers Association. And for those of you that don't know, it's the state's most prominent cultivator-oriented organization. This woman has been operating and owning a space that has been predominantly male-dominated. And this woman has held her head up, and she's been a source of inspiration for myself and for my staff, particularly as we worked very handedly together to craft the equity program that we created right here in the city and county of San Francisco when dealing with cannabis and supporting cannabis businesses. Ms. Lencho is the co-founder of a fantastic organization called Supernova Women, a non-for-profit organization. You can apply. Yes, Supernova Women. It's a nonprofit organization for women of color in the cannabis industry that provides free education and training programs throughout the nation regarding national, state, and local policies, as well as business opportunities in the legal cannabis industry. She's committed to changing the perception of cannabis, its users, and its use through education. She is also working to provide people of color equal opportunity and access to the new cannabis market. Beyond her glowing biography and her beautiful smile, I want to add that it's been a pleasure to get to know Sunshine. Throughout this process of building the equity program for the cannabis legislation, you've got your fingerprints all over it, and I want to say thank you. Sunshine is one of the experts in my office that consulted with us, and she's just been an incredible help as we began to look to her as a thought leader and an advocate for those that are most disenfranchised. It is with great pleasure that I provide this certificate of honor to Miss Len Chow. Congratulations and thank you for your work. We salute you. Sorry, Sunshine. Nope, Sunshine, you have an opportunity to go to the podium and say a few remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Cohen. It's a great honor to be here today. I had no intention of finding myself positioned to get an award. I pretty much felt that it was imperative that as an attorney, I tried to make the cannabis industry and the regulations pertaining to cannabis as accessible as possible. We released 300 pages of regulations, and lawyers that are senior to me have trouble navigating them. So how can we expect people who are trying to transition, who have been left out of other economic opportunities, to be able to do so? So along with my co-founders, we felt it was important that we start having free workshops. We have one coming up here in San Francisco, partnering with Impact Hub on February 24th. From 10 to 12:30. It will be a summation of how do we get here, because for people who haven't been sitting around reading the regs for the last 3 years, like I have, they may be surprised at the current legal industry, and we think it's important that we provide forums for people to come back and have conversations about that. So that's February 24th from 10 to 12:30, and we're looking forward to seeing many of the same faces at Impact Hub SF, BART Accessible, 16th Street, Mission BART. Thanks. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, next up we are going to hear from the district representative hailing all the way from the west side.
That's right.
Supervisor Sandy Fewer, representing District 1.
Thank you very much. Today it is my honor to present a commendation to Reverend Ayanna Moore, an ordained minister who serves two congregations, Plymouth United Church of Christ, the Jazz and Justice Church of Oakland, and St. James Episcopal Church on California Street in San Francisco. At Plymouth, she serves in their Justice and Witness ministries, and at St. James, she co-convenes their Faith in Action Bay Area team, who I had a great pleasure to working with. Reverend Ayanna credits her love of community and service and activism to her parents and grandparents, who embodied and role modeled their faith in action through community service. She is a proud daughter, and her parents demonstrated integrity and resilience throughout their lives and deeply influenced who Reverend Ayanna Moore is today. Her mother, an immigrant from a Caribbean island with little means, came to the U.S. as a legal immigrant, but endured ostracism and isolation. She defied her family and her Catholic faith tradition to marry a born and raised Baptist, anti-clerical husband from a poor single-parent family in working-class Pennsylvania. Reverend Ayanna's father served in a segregated army, led segregated African-American troops, and rose from an enlisted man to a decorated officer. A law-abiding and very strict father, he refused to order his troops to carry out a racist order and faced the threat of a court-martial in doing so. Reverend Ayana attended the University of Washington, where she earned degrees in Spanish and speech communication, and the University of California School of Social Welfare, where she earned a Master's of Social Welfare. She shocked her family and friends when she answered her call to the ordained ministry, enrolled in the Pacific School of Religion at the Graduate Theological Union, where her areas of concentration were biblical studies, art ministries, and children and youth, women's studies and religion, and African American theologies. Reverend Ayana has a daughter named Gina, who she describes as her truth teller guru, and a large, noisy family of siblings, cousins, nephews, and nieces in the Pacific Northwest and all over the U.S. and London. Reverend Ayana is a force to be reckoned with in the Richmond District, and her voice, I believe, is incredibly important in our neighborhood. As an activist, as a Black woman, as clergy, her courage to speak out on issues affecting human and civil rights is deeply inspiring to me and to my residents, as is her organizing, her tenacity, and her generosity of spirit in giving of herself to make the world a better place. Reverend Ayana, I am proud to call you a friend and Richmond resident. I am honored to recognize you today. Please come up.
Thank you, Supervisor Fewer, for this honor. To be acknowledged by you, a force to be reckoned with, as an activist means a great deal to me. Thank you. No woman is an island, and so I thank those in this room who have made history, those behind me, and those in front of me. I particularly want to thank my board president, London Breed, who is a role model to me, and to Supervisor Cohen, also role model to me, and have been for many years, long before I became an activist. I want to thank so many people. I'm here only because Reverend John Kirkley, the rector of St. James, invited me, a stranger, to accompany the St. James congregation as they discerned whether to become a part of Faith in Action Bay Area. I want to acknowledge my team at St. James, and especially my right hand and the Salt of the Earth co-convener, Barbara Webb. Thank you. The members of my team are mostly senior citizens, some with disabilities, all who love this city. I want to thank our allies, Housing Rights Committee of the Mission and the West Side, and Senior Disability Action and Advocacy, for walking with me and my team, sometimes in the very cold, on behalf of our most vulnerable. I want to thank my family, most of whom could not be here today, but who are with me in spirit. And most of all, I really thank my daughter, Gina. Gina, you truly are my truth teller. You are my guru, whose love and support give me the strength and the courage to lead. Thank you, and thank you all for this great honor.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Our next speaker will be Supervisor Peskin.
Thank you, Madam President. Colleagues, today I have the honor to honor an individual who has worked for the city and county of San Francisco for longer than I have been alive. I want to recognize a lot of folks who have turned out for Mr. Carl Payne, his former colleague, Commander David Lazar. Commander Lazar was the youngest person in the academy class that Carl Payne entered, when Carl Payne was the oldest individual in that class. And therein lies an incredible story about how San Francisco fell short. Mr. Payne got a job after 6 years in the Marine Corps in the cable car division of Muni. And he was incredible at catching pickpockets. And as a result, the police department at Central Station encouraged him to become a policeman. And he went, and right before he was sworn in, this is in the old days, you got sworn in right before you went into the academy. 3 hours before he was to be sworn in, he received a telephone call saying that he had turned 36 and was no longer eligible. That is what we call age discrimination. And Mr. Payne sued the city and county of San Francisco, and the Superior Court upheld the city and denied justice to Mr. Payne. Step in the United States of America, and the United States of America came down on the city and county of San Francisco for age discrimination. During this time, 8 years passed, and Mr. Payne, at the age of 50, after working for 28 years at Muni, where, by the way, he exceeds Byron Cobb, who has won the cable car championship bell ringing contest 8 times. Mr. Payne won it 10 times in those 28 years. He went from there at the age of 50, he became a cop. And he was beloved at Central Station, where he served most of his 24 years. And then he retired from the police department, and today works for general manager of our Rec and Park department in the Park Patrol. He works for Mr. Phil Ginsburg, and as he says, I no longer talk to people like I used to, now I talk to trees. 2.5 years at the Rec and Park department with Mr. Santiago and others. So count that all up, over 54 continuous years working for the people of the city and county of San Francisco. I cannot think of a better honoree for February's African American History Month, for your decades of service, for being an ambassador on our Muni rolling stock, as a police officer where you were beloved by everybody in the neighborhood, from Russian Hill to Polk Gulch to North Beach to Fisherman's Wharf. Carl, you are a legend and an inspiration, and I know that Veteran Affairs Commissioner Bickle wants to say a quick thing if you are here, and you can proceed, Carl. And I know Captain Yep is here. I see your former colleagues from Central Station. I see former Lieutenant Nelson Lum, who, by the way, at the Cathay Post, which is the most diverse post, I know you guys hang out there together. Thank you, Carl, for all of your service. Commissioner Bickle, and then I will turn it over to Carl.
Thank you, Supervisor. Good afternoon, Supervisors. My name is Bill Barnacle, and I am a Commissioner for the Veterans Affairs for the City and County of San Francisco. First of all, Carl, I want to thank you and congratulate you on your many, many years of dedicated service to the city. One of my responsibilities as a commissioner, and also retired from the United States Air Force, is to acknowledge my vets. As the supervisor mentioned, Carl spent 6 years in the Marine Corps, and from a vet to a vet, that he was 1958, a long time, so Semper Fidelis for the Marine Corps, and of course the Air Force. But I want to acknowledge, Carl, come on up. So I want to acknowledge Carl by giving him a coin. This is a limited edition for the United States Air Force, It's a challenge coin, and last year we celebrated our 70th anniversary in the United States Air Force. So with that, I want to congratulate you to a fellow vet from LFET, NUVET. Thank you so much for all you do, and I love my vets. You look fantastic, Marine.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yeah. I'll take a picture. Yeah. I'll get your daughter to take a picture. That's for you.
I want to thank the city and county. Sorry, I'm a little bit overwhelming. When I first started working for the city, it was kind of rough. You know, things always didn't work out the way you hoped that they would, but I got the opportunities. And by having the opportunities, I tried to go to the limit. When I worked for the city and on the cable cars, I had the opportunity to be a Goodwill ambassador and had a chance to go to Australia, Hong Kong, Amsterdam, as well as over 60 appearances I made representing the city and county of San Francisco on different TV shows, radio shows. Traveled with Senator Feinstein when we were raising money for the Save the Cable Cars. But like I say, the opportunity is there. You got to reach out and take it. Nobody's going to give you anything. You've got to reach out and take it. And the way we are going now, we really need to reach out and take things. We have an opportunity before us to do something great. I love the city and county. I was only passing through here when I got discharged from the Marine Corps and I decided to stay. It was the best decision I made in my life. I'm still working, thank God. I thank the Rec and Park for the opportunity to talk to trees. And the Rec and Park is hiring. We're hiring any of you folks, so it's never too late to come on out and talk to the trees. But like I said, I thank Mr. Peskin for the opportunity to stand up here and say something. I thank the Board of Supervisors for all that you do and all that you will continue to do on behalf of the citizens of San Francisco. We got to look good. The rest of the world's looking at us, always. And we're always going to look good, no matter what, no matter who's up in the big house. But with that, I thank you, and may God bless you.
Okay. Next, we will hear from Supervisor Tang, representing District 4.
Thank you very much. And now I'm going to honor someone also from Recreation and Parks Department. This gentleman, I think, instead of talking to trees, he talks to a lot of ice plants. I'd like to welcome up Robert Mohammed and anyone who's with him, his family, any of his coworkers, although they might be outside taking a photo. Is Robert in here still? Oh, yes, come on up, Robert, and your family. I know he's joined here today, but right, and I know that Robert is joined today by, again, some of his colleagues, but more importantly, his wife, Javon, and his 2 of his 4 children and his grandson. So thank you all for being here today. And I know that Director Ginsburg, he may be back. Okay, he's back. All right.
It's a good day for Rec and Park.
Yes, it is. So Robert is a San Francisco native from the Ingleside district, and he grew up attending Lawton Elementary School and Lincoln High School in the Sunset. And his stomping grounds were Ocean View and Sunset Rec Centers, and he was known to always have a basketball on hand to play a game of pickup whenever the mood struck. And he always thought, as a young boy, how awesome would it be to one day work at one of the rec centers and playing with the kids all day. And little did he know that one day he would be doing that. He would be working at both Ocean View and Sunset Rec Centers as a park services manager. Robert manages Park Service Area 4, which lies mostly within the Sunset District and also some neighborhoods as far south as Ingleside and Merced Heights. And a lot of the responsibilities under Robert include Stern Grove, Lake Merced, Lower Great Highway, and he leads a field staff of 30 personnel in the delivery of landscape and custodial services to the area. And we first met Robert back in 2016 when he began his current role in PSA 4. And I had asked Director Ginsburg here about Great Highway and the pathway, and it started getting taken over by all the ice plants so that only kind of like one person at a time could walk through. And here was Robert, and I think the person who preceded you is also named Robert, so we always had great Roberts working for our district. And just was so proactive in trying to address the landscaping the area, working with a lot of neighbors who wanted to volunteer and just make the whole stretch a lovelier place through landscaping. And I personally believe that landscaping is, so much more than just aesthetics. It really brings a community together. And Robert was just a huge part of that work. So over the last year and a half, Robert and his team have totally transformed the Greenway, the Lower Great Highway, removing weeds, dead landscaping, and replacing them with drought-tolerant native species. And Robert actually began his career working for a landscaping company that was one of the first eco-friendly companies in the city. Rather than using harmful chemical pesticides, they were among the first to use soaps and horticultural oils. And after his first experience as a landscaper, Robert knew that he loved working in horticulture. And so when a job opened up as a gardener for the San Francisco Recreation and Parks Department, he decided to apply. And today, I'm very excited to hear that his son is actually an apprentice gardener over at the SF Public Works. So welcome and thank you. I see it runs in the family. So Robert has risen through the ranks of the department as a gardener, park section supervisor, and currently as acting manager. And he has such a broad range of experiences and in fact helped to establish the golf course over at Harding Park before it opened to the public after renovation in 2004 when the PGA Tour was hosted here in the city. And after that experience, I know that Robert began to see just how rewarding his profession was, taking care of our parks, interacting with our community, and so forth. And in 2012, he was promoted to the Park Section Supervisor for the Western Addition. And in 2016, as we mentioned, he was given his assignment to manage Park Service Area 4. Robert has a strong background in turf management due to his long tenures at Gardner at Harding Park, and he has helped to manage some of the most difficult areas, including 14 ball diamonds, 22 soccer pitches, and 2 sports complexes. And I know that we're all hearing about how wonderful Robert is in his job at Recreation and Parks Department, but I also was very touched to hear about what he and his wife did, actually. They have been married for 23 years, so congratulations. So in the late 90s, Robert and his wife were living in a 4-bedroom home, but didn't need to use all of the rooms. And so for more than a year, they decided to open their home to homeless and pregnant teenage women who did not have shelter. And in fact, they keep regular contact with some of these women who have since grown up to get married and have wonderful lives, and they still call Javon and Robert mom and dad. I can't think of anyone more selfless than that. So, Robert, I want to thank you. I want to thank your family, everything that you've done for Rec Park, for our community at large. Thank you, all the colleagues and friends who have taken time out of their day to come here, and Director Ginsburg. And I think Director Ginsburg may have a few words to say as well before we bring Robert back up.
Pretty tough act to follow, Supervisor. Thank you for honoring Robert. We have 5 values in our organization. We call them the 5 R's. And Robert leads with respect. He fosters relationships. He is responsive. He is resilient, and he delivers results. And this is an amazing, very, very well-deserved honor, and I am humbled to be able to observe this. Thank you.
Robert, it's your turn.
Thank you, Supervisor Tang, for this honor. It is indeed a pleasure to serve the city that I was born and raised in. I guess I've come full circle to be able to go back to the neighborhood, my old stomping grounds, and actually help beautify and maintain and keep them safe and clean, the parks. I'd like to acknowledge my lovely, beautiful wife, who I would not be standing here if it wasn't for her, Javon Muhammad. My hardworking son, Jihad Muhammad, and my beautiful daughter, Nala Muhammad. They all keep me focused, grounded, and strong so that I can get up every morning and do the things that I do. Thank you so much for this honor. Oh, and I'm sorry, and I'd also like to recognize Lauren. Is Lauren here? There she is. Come here. This is the reason why the Great Highway has transformed so drastically and so fast. Lauren has been such a great help, and it's been nothing but an honor and a pleasure to work with her. So I'd like to recognize you and thank you for all your help.
Next, we will hear from Supervisor Yee. Supervisor Yee.
Thank you. Today, I am pleased to honor community leader and advocate for aging adults, Evernice Cook. Come on up, Evernice. She's a resident of Midtown Terrace in District 7 since 1979, where she raised her son. She now has 2 granddaughters. I have 2 grandkids, too. And has remained and continues to be an active force in her community, especially when it comes to aging adults. She's joined by many of her friends today, including Willard Harris, who, believe it or not, I didn't believe it, she's 98 years old and she's here. There she is. You know, District 7 is a little bit different. We really build our community through activism within our neighborhoods and community. And Ms. Cook really exemplifies what it is to be a District 7 resident that's building communities in District 7. So I'm really honored to have you be my honoree. My office first began working with her last year when I secured funding to start senior fitness programs in Midtown Terraces, a neighborhood that has had a lack of senior programming despite the large number of elderly living in that area. Evernice stepped up as a leader to work with Unlock Community Living Campaign, St. John's Armenian Church, and her neighbors to make Unlock's always active, evidence-based weekly exercise programs available to the aging community in Midtown Terraces. Once classes began this spring, I am excited to see all the seniors who will benefit from this programming stay socially connected to their neighbors and stay healthy both physically and mentally. Despite the many meetings, months, and energy that Evernice and her neighbors have spent on coordinating to make the Always Active program available to her fellow seniors, Evernice has continued to work with a proactive and positive attitude, never giving up, with our office and various stakeholders. Her neighbors also spoke in support of her, saying, "There's a touchstone and beacon for the community," and that's what she is. She has served the Midtown Terrace Homeowners Association for more than a decade as president and secretary. Evernice is viewed in the neighborhood as a person of trust, class, and integrity. Current president of the HOA, Rick Johnson, said, "Evernice has stepped up to the place where whenever there has been a need, and she certainly served as a mentor and an inspiration to Rick himself. Beyond advocating for her fellow aging adults, Evernice's passion is selfishly serving others. In her capacity, she volunteers weekly at Laguna Honda Hospital. She volunteers monthly at the Grove Street Extended Care Facility. She visits church members who are physically unable to attend services. This includes a senior neighbor who delights in their shared experiences. She also serves as a mentor, advisor, and encourager to younger women who are starting their careers and building their own households. She does all this while she continues to seek out ways and opportunities to serve her neighbors in her own district. Before she moved to San Francisco and first settled in Hayes Valley, she was born on the farm of Oakwood, Texas, to parents Joe and Mary Alexander. She graduated from St. Paul Silo High School and attended Prairie View A&M College before relocating to San Francisco in 1963. Now, upon her arrival to San Francisco, she became an active member of her neighborhood Baptist church. She has served tirelessly in many capacities and today continues to be active in church ministries and the community. She enjoys spending time with her granddaughters, Annalise and Azaya, sharing her love and knowledge of cooking and gardening that she learned while growing up on a farm. Evernice loves nature and currently has a garden where she grows fruits, herbs, and vegetables. Can I have some? Evernice enjoys San Francisco many public spaces, civic activities, and events. She actually, during her family annual trips to Camp Mather, met her husband there. Oh my goodness. What happens at Camp Mather stays in Camp Mather. Okay, and her husband is here also today, Eugene Cook, and they both continue to participate in this tradition. And so I want to end this by saying congratulations, Evernice, and in honor of Black History Month, and thank you again for your continued leadership and advocacy on behalf of all the seniors in your community. Thank you very much, Evernice.
I want to say thank you to Supervisor Yee for recognizing the work that I do in the community. And, you know, it's part of me. I had loving parents who were always giving to others. So it's something I learned from my parents that I continue today. And working in my church, we're always told it is better to give than receive. So I'm always trying to find a way to give to others because I know if I give, I will receive. So thank you so much.
Congratulations. Next, we will hear from President London Breed.
Thank you, Supervisor Cohen. It is my honor today to recognize Trina Johnson. Come on up, Trina. You know, what's so amazing about Trina is she is the go-to for everything in the community. If I need flyers delivered door to door to make sure that the community is made aware of anything that's going on in the neighborhood, I call Trina. If we want to pass out turkeys and make sure all the families who need turkeys during the holiday season gets their turkeys, Trina will actually go to the door and demand that they come to the center to get a turkey because she knows that they need them. She takes money out of her own pocket to make sure that dinners are made, hot food is made available to the residents of her community. She helps to organize the toy drives. She helps to do all of these incredible things, not because it is her job, but because she has so much love in her heart. So much love. Trina has worked and still works in the shelter system, but worked at Hella Hill Hutch Community Center when we had a shelter there, and currently works at Next Door Shelters. And what's so interesting about Trina, Trina calls me a lot or texts me a lot. And in every instance, it's always about what she's trying to do for somebody else. I need to take care of this for Miss Such and Such, and I need to take care of this, and I need a food bag for this person, and I need to do what I need to do to make sure that this person doesn't get kicked out of their home. And just the food bank, volunteering to hold on to the food bank in the community, all the things that you try to do for the seniors and the food deliveries that you do to the senior community, taking care of your mom, taking care of your community, raising 2 kids as a single mom and taking care of your granddaughter, on top of all the volunteer work that you have done to make our community a better and a more safe place for so many people. Trina, we are so blessed. We are so blessed to know you. We're so blessed to have you a part of the community. I mean, even when sadly we lose lives in our community, the first person there to help with prayer and with Miss Maddie Scott and the Healing Circle, the first person to help get your sister LaTanya and others to serve food at that funeral service, you are the first person there organizing people to take care of families. You are the first person helping to organize healing circles. You are the first person to making sure the resources are brought to the community. And you do it, as I said, because you love your community. And our community has suffered so much. We have been through so many challenges over the years. Growing up in the neighborhood, you, on a personal level, you've been through so many challenges, but here you stand strong. Here you stand as a beacon of hope for the whole community. The work you do, the way you take care of everyone, the way you push people around because you want them to do the right thing, that is what makes you so effective. You don't mess around. It's all about the community. It's all about the kids. It's all about the seniors. And the fact that you spend so much of your personal time and your personal money to actually do what you've done over the years for the community is deserving of this commendation and so much more. So on behalf of the City and County of San Francisco, Trina, it is my honor to recognize you for all that you have done to make San Francisco such an amazing place for so many people. Congratulations.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you, London Breed. Wow, my heart is heavy right now. This started a long time ago, y'all, because I'm past 50, with my mom. My mom used to always, she started off first taking care of kids. And then I can remember one day this lady was going in recovery. And she asked my mom, could you take my kids while I go get clean and sober? And my mom did that. And it's like, they wasn't even her own kids. And she used to feed everybody. And she always told us, you treat people like you want to be treated. And respect everyone. And if somebody ever needs you, you be there for them. And I just want to say thank you for Ellie Hill Hutch. I started getting into working with the homeless population over 15 years. And my first job was with Ellie Hill Hutch. And that really opened up my heart to realize that there's so many people out there that need housing or just need somebody to talk to, just to hear them out. And I'm one of them people. I love talking to people. I love just to be there and to support them. And Ellie Hill Hutch gave me the opportunity to go into these shelters and do what I needed to do, as well as London Breed when she was at the African Culture Center. When I was doing cooking, I used to cook for the homeless. My sister used to cook, my mom, my auntie, my daughter. We bring in the food for the homeless people where I work at, all the holidays, and made them feel that it is somebody that cares because I'm one of them. Because I am also a recovering addict with 21 years clean and sober. So today I just want to say thank you, London, so much for hearing me out, for being there for me. When I did the Katrina Foundation, the Healing Zone, I want to say thank you, Maddie, for opening up your doors to me. Adrian Owens, I want to say thank you. James, wherever you are, all these people that understood that what we needed in our community, they there for us. And I'm going to keep on doing it because we need a lot of work done up in there. And we just got to learn how to love one another and take care of one another. And just hear somebody out today because you might be saving their life. And thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Congratulations. Supervisor Ronan.
Thank you so much. If I could call up the amazing Gina Dacus to the dais. Got a fan club here from the Bernal Heights Neighborhood Center. Gina, I am so incredibly happy to be honoring and recognizing you today, one of the most dedicated and skilled leaders that we have in District 9. Gina is the executive director of the Bernal Heights Neighborhood Center, and this year marks the center's 40th anniversary. The organization's mission has remained true for all of these years, which is preserving the ethnic, cultural, and economic diversity of Bernal Heights and the surrounding neighborhoods. Through profound demographic change, Bernal Heights has been able to retain some measure of diversity, much to the credit of the Bernal Heights Neighborhood Center. With our city's African American population being devastated by displacement, Bernal Heights Neighborhood Centers work to preserve public housing developments in Bernal and develop new affordable housing, combine public safety with community leadership, and provide services for seniors and youth, creates a safety net to keep communities of color in San Francisco. Bernal Heights Neighborhood Center remains deeply grassroots-led and focused and serves as an anchor institution in the neighborhood. For this and more, the Bernal Heights community owes a deep, deep debt of gratitude to Gina Dacus. Since Gina started at Bernal Heights Neighborhood Center, she has quickly assumed increasingly challenging roles, most recently stepping up in a time of transition and, quite frankly, in a time of crisis to lead as the executive director. I'm going to be as bold to say, Gina, that you saved the organization at a very, very risky time in its history, and for that, I will have unending gratitude to you forever. Under your leadership, you've stabilized the board of directors, you've untangled, and I know you spent so much time doing this, the complex finances of the organization, and you've significantly grown the staffing. You have been overseeing the successful rehabilitation of Holly Courts and ongoing work at the Alamany Housing, and started back, much to the love of the neighborhood, Fiesta on the Hill, which before your leadership had shut down for a couple years. Gina, you truly exemplify the technical skills, the strategic approach, the unwavering determination and compassionate heart that combine to make you the great, incredible leader that you are. You are a superwoman, and on top of your role at Bernal Heights Neighborhood Center, you're also, I don't know how you have time, an ordained pastor, a community volunteer, and a devoted grandmother. I cannot thank you enough for all of your work. You are amazing, and we love you, Gina. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Ronan, as well as the Board of Supervisors collectively. I am honored, I'm privileged, I'm thankful, I'm overwhelmed by this moment. You think you plan your life, and it always takes different turns. But one of the things that I can accredit this to is a neighborhood center. A neighborhood center in 1978 was built in my neighborhood in Parchester in Richmond, California, and allowed me to come to San Francisco to be able to explore, to be able to learn different avenues. And I'm back here again, and I did not do it alone. I have the most amazing team. My board has been so supportive, even with all of my crazy ideas and things that I challenged them with. The staff stepped in and they partnered with me, and willingness became our new currency. And I am just so grateful for even the ROLs, our leadership team. We have Bobby back here. We have this is a neighborhood. We believe in a whole community approach, and we believe it takes stakeholders like business owners and homeowners and people that live in public housing and renters and people that come to our programs to have a healthy community. And we've done it. We're doing it. We're entering into our 40th year, and we're preparing for the next generation to stand on our shoulders. And we are thankful to you all for your support. Thank you.
Congratulations. Congratulations to you. Supervisor Safai.
Thank you. Well, what a wonderful list of people to follow today. I think there's been a consistent theme. We'll wait for all the excitement. That was a rowdy group. The consistent theme that I've heard today is one of people that have dedicated themselves to their community, dedicated themselves to their family, dedicated themselves to making their neighborhoods safer. I think that one of the histories, unfortunately, that we're experiencing in this city is one, particularly in the African American community, is one that has been victims of a disproportionate level of violence and crime for a long time. And the person that I'm honoring today has dedicated almost more time in his life than I've been alive on this earth, as Supervisor Peskin was saying. He moved to the Lakeview OMI neighborhood in 1974, 44 years ago, and I can't imagine. I know everyone jokes about me being able to focus and ants in my pants and all this stuff on this board, but being able to focus on one neighborhood and one community for 44 years. Al Harris is the example of dedication. And as everyone knows, you can't mention Al without mentioning his wonderful wife, Mary, because they are a team. You never say Al Harris. You always say Mary and Al Harris.
That's right.
Sorry, Al. It's always Mary first, so it's Mary and Al Harris. And those of you that know them know that they are the dynamic duo. So Al is not from San Francisco like many of us, but he was born in Wisconsin and moved to San Bernardino and then fell in love with San Francisco and fell in love with his wonderful wife, who I mentioned. And he was originally on the U.S. Interpreter as a fireman stationed at Treasure Island. And it's that time where he fell in love with our city and dedicated himself. As I said, they've lived in the OMI, Mary and Al, for 44 years. And during that time, they've had a whole host of issues that they've had to confront. The crack epidemic in the 80s, their parks and recreation facilities being overrun and run down and neglected, their libraries being non-existent. And so Al Harris dedicated himself to first dealing with violence in the community out there in the OMI, working with the Terraville Police Station and the Ingleside Police Station, and being part of the task force that was involved with coming up with strategies to suppress crime. They opened up a substation out there in the 80s that was the first beacon of hope for many in the community. And he never once let go. He never once stopped, even when people were dying, even when people were being pushed out. And one of the wonderful things about the Lakeview, those of you know, it has one of the highest rates of African-American homeowners in the city of San Francisco, along with Bayview. And I think that's a great thing. And that has added to the stability of that community. And so because of that stability, Mary and Al not only dedicated themselves to turning around one of the worst violent crime corridors in our city, the Broad Randolph corridor, but they then turned their sights over to the Rec and Park facility that now is named after two other people that dedicated and dedicated their entire lives to turning around that community, Minnie and Lovey Ward. So I know Mary and Al carry on the torch of Minnie and Lovey in that same tradition of giving back and investing in facilities that they know will be a great beacon of hope and places that people in the community can turn. I know Al dedicates himself almost year-round to the food pantry that feeds hundreds of people in the Minnie and Lovey Ward Rec Center. And then also, Mary and Al dedicate themselves to the annual toy giveaway, which gives away hundreds of toys each and every year to families in need. And I've heard our President Bree time and time again say, if it weren't for those toy giveaways, she might not have had the opportunity to have wonderful presents. And I know I've heard Al say the same thing. The ability to give a child a toy at Christmas time can turn lives around and turn hope around. And Al has done that for year after year after year. So the theme of crime suppression and upliftment, along with dedicating themselves to facilities like the Minnie and Lovey Ward Rec Center, Al was involved in every step of the way, raising funds, dedicating every day of his life to seeing that turn around. And in 2008, we cut the ribbon in the honor of that family, and it was because of the dedication of Mary and Al and the work that they did. I'll just end by saying I've had the great fortune, it's not someone that I just came to learn and know while I've been elected into this office. I've known Al Harris for 14 years. And Al is one, if you know him, he constantly has a smile on his face. He constantly is upbeat. He's constantly telling jokes. But when the time is right, Al gets real serious and cuts down to it. And so it wasn't until October of 2016, 1 month before the election, that I finally won over Mary and Al, but Al, just because it's Al today. And once I knew I got that endorsement, I knew I was going to win. And so to them, I say thank you for that endorsement, because that was the final touch I needed to be standing here in front of you today. I'll just end by saying, just list out a few of the things that Al has served on. He was a former library commissioner, Terraville Police Station Community Police Advisory Board member. He's a board member of the Excelsior Action Group. He's a board member of the Geneva Car Barn, which we just last week authorized $15 million for. That's another dedicated effort. He sits on the YMCA Urban Services YMCA Oversight Committee. And this past year, Mary and Al were honored by their neighbors, friends, and the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development with the Neighborhood Empowerment Lifetime Achievement Award. So the NEN Award, they were one of the first people to do that. So it is my great honor to recognize someone that I think of as a friend and someone that I've watched with great pride lead his community, Al Harris.
Thank you, Supervisor Safiq. It's a funny thing, because if you try to get an award, you can't get it. No matter how hard you try. And he's right. Minnie and Lovey were just so dedicated to the community that Mary, my lovely wife, decided that she really liked the name Minnie. she thought it was a joke at first. She says, nobody's named Minnie, is it? And Lovey? Really? And so the torch was passed from Minnie to Mary, and the torch was passed from Lovey to me. And so he always supported Minnie, and I support my wife. And she's the one that does all the work, and I'm just her assistant. So thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Of course. It's true.
Okay, we'll do some.
Congratulations to you.
I know, baby.
Next, we'll hear from Supervisor Stephanie.
Thank you, Supervisor Cohen. What an honor it is to be in this room right now, bearing witness to these incredible people. I'd like to call up Nadia Sase. Nadia, I have to say, is a force to be reckoned with at City Hall. I first met Nadia as a legislative aide to Michaela Alioto-Pierre and worked with her more closely for 3 years as the budget aide to Supervisor Mark Farrell when he chaired the Budget and Finance Committee. In every meeting I've ever been in with her, I've always left impressed with her grip on financial figures and concepts that would be difficult to comprehend without Nadia explaining them so effortlessly. More than the knowledge she imparts in meetings, Nadia just has a way about her that makes it a joy to always be around her. She reminds me of that Maya Angelou quote, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." I walk away from every encounter I have with Nadia feeling good. I love that we're neighbors and run into each other on Chestnut Street every once in a while. Nadia is a leader and example for us all, and I love what Supervisor Cohen said about Black Future Month. Nadia embodies that to me. She is inspiring, and she's a dedicated public servant. Her resume is so impressive. She has been the executive director of the Office of Community Investment of Infrastructure for the past year. In this role, she is responsible for the economic development of the new Trans Bay, Mission Bay, and Hunters Point shipyard neighborhoods, which collectively provide over 20,000 new housing units, including approximately 7,000 affording housing units and 10 million square feet of commercial space, and the management of various properties in existing and expired project areas. Prior to that, Nadia served as the director of the Comptroller's Office of Public Finance since 2005. In this role, Mrs. Say conducted financial analysis for the mayor, board of supervisors, commissioners, and department heads relating to debt financing and oversaw the city's $3.2 billion municipal debt portfolio. Without Nadia's skills and leadership, I don't know that we would have have the successful bond and capital investment program that we have today. I certainly couldn't do that. She has worked in the Office of Public Finance for over 19 years, serving as financial administrator and bond associate prior to her appointment as director. Nadia also sits on the San Francisco Community Investment Board and served as chair of the Oversight Board of the successor agency to the Redevelopment Agency of the City and County of San Francisco prior to her appointment as interim executive director. In 2015, Nadia served on the State Treasurer's Task Force on Bond Accountability, whose final report in December 2015 prompted the state of California to adopt several of its recommended reforms. Nadia was awarded San Francisco's Public Managerial Excellence Award for exemplary leadership, fiscal ingenuity, and vision in 2010. San Francisco is truly so lucky to have Nadia on our side, looking out for all of us. We commend you, Nadia, and thank you for all that you do for all San Franciscans.
I am truly honored for this nomination. I'm Supervisor Stefani. I've had the opportunity and the pleasure of working with most of you throughout my career here. I also happen to be a resident in the last decade, so I've been fortunate and been appreciative of the opportunity of working in the city, loving what I do, and being able to make the impact I've been able to do. I've had the pleasure of having amazing bosses, amazing staff members who are here today, and I'm just thankful to be able to do what I love the most, which is working on complex projects, trying to deliver, trying to make sure that the projects impact and improve the quality of life in San Francisco. And I'm honored and looking forward to what the next chapter will look like in my new role as Executive Director of Office of Community Investment and Infrastructure, because that definitely impacts new development within the city and that impacts certain communities that are the most disadvantaged. So I thank you for the honor, all of you, and I look forward to working with you all in the future. So thank you for that.
Congratulations. Congratulations, very well deserved. The next supervisor to present will be Supervisor Kim.
So I would like to bring up my District 6 nominee, LaShondra Breston. Please come up. I thought, who better to honor in my last year on the board for Black History Month than the woman who has been at the forefront of organizing Black History Month on Treasure Island every year that I've been on this board. And I just want to recognize LaShondra, who is a pillar in our Treasure Island community, supporting all of our families and youth on an island that truly is a working class families neighborhood. I also want to mention that LaShondra is a mother and has 6 children, 4 of whom are under age 18. And she's a mother and she takes care of the entire community all at the same time. LaShondra is the founder and one of the creators for the Treasure Island Parent Council, and along with Sherry Williams and others, put together the Treasure Island Family Resource Guide in 2016. You worked with the Treasure Island Youth and Family Services Plan, working to convince departments like DCYF to invest more in our Treasure Island residents. And as we speak, you are fighting to get a school, a grocery store, and also keep our county transportation agencies accountable on the island to the transportation plan that they're planning for the future of the growth. I know that there are so many needs on the island, but I just want to say that I have heard you loud and clear. And the need in particular for family resources. Not many of us get to visit Treasure Island as often as we should. They have beautiful views, by the way, and this is probably a very good week to go on the island because of the weather. But it is really an amazing community. You go there after school at 3:30 or 4 p.m., and kids are just running around the neighborhood, without adult supervision. It's just amazing to see that in San Francisco, that kind of community exists here. It's both urban and also just really just small community neighborhood, and everyone knows each other. And we have such a nice community there because of leaders like LaShondra, who makes sure that she knows all of her neighbors, and that all of her neighbors know each other and talk to one another. With the departure of some of our community-based organizations on Treasure Island, it really is important that we invest in our families on this island. And the data shows that along with Mission Bay and the Bayview, this is where our youth population will be growing the most significantly. And before I leave as District 6 Supervisor, I just want you to know that we are certainly going to make this a priority in our budgetary process this year. LaShondra, you have an amazing story. I don't want to tell it for you, but you have just overcome a ton of diversity before you ended up in Treasure Island and part of Community Housing Partnership. You have the biggest heart, the biggest heart. You care, you organize young people to sing In fact, you have a singing troupe of young people on the island that have performed all around the city, and you yourself performed at the Community Housing Partnership 25th anniversary, which was the first time I ever got to see you sing. And wow, you just totally blew the socks off of everyone's feet. Also, I thought I would just end with two stories about LaShondra. One, last week at the Community Housing Partnership, you won a prize at the raffle draw, and instead of keeping it for yourself, you decided to share it with all of the families that came, even the ones that you didn't know. And second, last week, you brought one of our Tenderloin groups to see if they could connect additional services to Treasure Island, knowing that many of our South Market and Tenderloin organizations can do more to serve our families on the island as well. So I didn't do you justice, but you have done so much for our parents and families, and you are so talented, and our office depends upon you so much to do the work that you do in building communities, providing advocacy, and telling us what we need to be doing to hold us accountable to this neighborhood. And so I just want to thank you so much for your leadership, your heart, and caring about everybody and making sure that this is a great city for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Kim. It's an honor to be recognized on this day with everybody else who was in the room. I don't work in San Francisco. I live in San Francisco. I don't think I started out as an activist. I started out as a parent who felt stuck and who felt fed up. Sometimes I come down here and I be hollering at y'all, and y'all not the only ones I used to holler at. I've learned a lot, and you know, Jane, you've been my girl since day one, since you were at the school board, you know, working at the school district, and when you first ran, and I've always appreciated that about you, how you know, it's no pretenses, you know, you listening, and you give what you can give. You know, you do your best, and I appreciate that. I appreciate the entire board. I was, like I said, born and raised in San Francisco. Grew up in the Portola district, got married and raised my family in the Bayview, moved out the city for a little while, and I came on back to Treasure Island, and I love my city. And, you know, nobody plans to be homeless. Nobody plans to be disadvantaged. Nobody plans to be unemployed, but these things happen, and it takes for people like myself and my cohorts here. This is Shantae Brown, and this is Verna Stitt, and these are part of the Treasure Island Parent Council. These are some of the parents. And just knowing that you're your child's best advocate is why we do what we do. So I just want to say thank you for the honor, thank you for the support, thank you for listening, because it's too many times when we feel like our voice isn't heard. So we appreciate this. Thank you.
Congratulations, thank you. And last but not least, we will hear from Supervisor Sheehy.
So colleagues, it's my great honor to recognize Janetta Johnson, someone whose advocacy and determination is awe-inspiring. Janetta is the director of the Transgender, Gender Variant, and Intersex Justice Project here in the city. They offer support to trans, gender variant, and intersex people who are incarcerated or working on reentry. Many of whom are disproportionately people of color. You know, I read this story about Janetta that I thought was just super cool. As a referral liaison to the TGI Justice Project, she wrote a letter to a federal judge because the correction officers were consistently and constantly misgendering folks. And it was such a powerful effort that the judge sent federal marshals in to compel the correction officers to use proper gender identification. The Janetta and the TGI Justice Project have been instrumental in advocating and organizing for more protections against the violence that trans and gender non-conforming communities of color face on a daily basis. One of the interesting things, too, I thought was like the way in which you've advocated for mental health services for people as they come out of incarceration, because so often incarcerated trans and gender nonconforming people end up in solitary. So often victims of violence and sexual assault, you know, for your own safety, they put you into solitary, put folks into solitary, but that has is incredibly damaging to people's mental health. As being put in solitary is actually a form of torture. It's been recognized by the United Nations and the Geneva Convention. And I just think it's so amazing that both you and the TGI Justice Project have really taken on the justice system. And I think that this is one of the biggest challenges that anybody can take on. It's one of the least forgiving, the least open, the least generous, and the harshest, because no one has rights in there except people wearing badges and people who have guns. And like I said, I'm awestruck. I also think that it's really cool how both you and TGI JP invest in creating leadership in the community, which includes, that's what we used to do in ACT UP, was like, it's so important to create leadership and really direct political education and empowerment so that the community can be organized to fight back against the oppression that's being experienced. I also wanted to note the accomplishment of passing State Bill 310, which removed barriers faced by trans individuals incarcerated in California prisons or jails by making them able to change their name and gender and have that reflected on documents within the jail. I think the work as part of the broad coalition trying to fight building a new jail in San Francisco, which so far has been successful, is truly admirable. And I also think with over 28 murders of transgender folks this past year, it's incredibly important. I know that one of the tragedies of having this new president is that the liberation that people experienced and the freedom people experienced living with Barack Obama, who was defending trans folks with his Justice Department and supporting trans folks in the military, that people in states where it wasn't usually safe to be oneself suddenly felt safe, and now we're in this reality where it's not safe and it's getting less safe. And so like I said, your work is amazing, your courage, and it's so important that we all keep going so that we can at least keep San Francisco as a haven with all this hate that's growing in the world around us. So again, thank you for your work. It is my absolute honor to present this to you, and thank you.
Thank you. I want to say thank you to the Board of Supervisors for recognizing my work and the work that TGIJP does for Black trans women in our fight for racial and equality in the city. I also want to recognize and express appreciation for the Board of Supervisors that supported our work, Jane Kim and Bobby Lopez as well. Most recently hearing to our demands and creating Compton's Transgender Cultural District in the neighborhood that has centered Black trans women's struggle for collective liberation and self-determination. I'm happy to see this in history and the ongoing work of being recognized by the city and county. Thank you, Supervisor Jeff Sheehy. I am not doing this work for recognition. However, I am doing this work for sisters and brothers and my ancestors in the struggle for Black and trans empowerment. I'm doing this to get my people out of prison and into stable housing and well-paying jobs and supportive communities. We can all agree that supporting our community means investing in our community, in people's health and well-being and self-determination. We know that increased investment in policies, especially in places like Compton's district, can lead to increased criminalization and trauma, even imprisonment for some of our most marginalized community members. If we are committed to supporting and transforming the Compton's district, we have to do it in a way that increases job training, not jail time, especially for formerly incarcerated and trans women coming in or out of prison. And as many of you know, I'm working on a new project, a cafe reentry program that will serve as job training program for formerly incarcerated trans women in community space in the Compton's Transgender Cultural District. And my request, and I ask that your further investment in creating this cafe management training program that will turn into a sustainable opportunity to better serve trans women living in the Bay Area and support the vision of Black trans leadership and self-determination. Thank you, Supervisor Sheehy, for recognizing the work of Black trans women as part of Black History Month, and I look forward to continuing to increase and create a world rooted in self-determination, freedom and expression, racial, economic, and gender justice, and continue to fight for Black trans liberation. Thank you.
Right, congratulations.
And I also wanted to introduce one of my sisters, Ranjay Earl. Hi. Thank you.
Congratulations to you. Well, colleagues, this concludes our celebration. Congratulations to all the awardees, and we recognize you and celebrate you and continue to uplift you. Madam President, I turn the meeting back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Cohen, and thank you, colleagues. What an amazing way to end our meeting. And as I said before, all business of the Board of Supervisors is completed. Madam Clerk, please read the in memoriams.
Yes, Madam President. Today's meeting will be adjourned in memory of the following beloved individuals. On behalf of Supervisor Tang, for the late Mr. Orion Pitts, and on behalf of Supervisor Peskin, for the late Mr. Edward Carmen Prudente, Sr.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Colleagues, this brings us to the end of our agenda. Madam Clerk, is there any further business before us today?
That concludes our business for today.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.